You know, when we see all these storm gods from ancient Mesopotamia and the area, you know, the Canaanite gods of El, and El is mentioned a lot in the Bible, all of the El names, it's easy to see how people maybe living in the desert would actually worship a god, a storm god, one that would bring the rains that were so much needed to the land. And you could see that the rain brought by these storms and things would be the bringer of life. People could tell right after it rained how everything would just flourish, and so they would equate the two. You know, we see these ancient storm gods from Mesopotamian area and Persia. We probably, you know, it's easy to see why a storm god would come into effect to a primitive people. You know, the rains bring about life. When after it rains, they can easily see that life sprouts from it and everything. The lightning bolts of Zeus, the decisive power that's happening, you know, the lightning that came upon Mount Sinai and things, trying to give you God's depiction where he spoke to Moses in thunder. Perhaps how after the ark, God reveals a rainbow, letting you know that he wasn't going to flood the world anymore. Could easily be an example of that rain and storm god of Mesopotamia, the El pantheon family, where Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind, the one where you can see the glory of God in the skies. God rides upon clouds. And I can see how a desert people would really worship something like this that would be the bringer of life. And they said that the storms had created the life, and how the evaporation off the earth caused the waters to be separated. It just makes kind of sense that a desert people would worship somebody who could bring rain and life like this. God's wrath could be shown in certain signs like floods, great winds that push waters back. God can be a blanket that covers over man and protects him, but he also can incur God's wrath, where he boils up and in his anger gets mad and lightning bolts ensue. It's like Zeus, but also in our Old Testament Bible. Lightning storms and things, for years people have referred to this as being the finger of God, that lightning striking is the finger of God, or tornadoes, like in the famous movie, was the finger of God. Or like this famous line from Twister, the tornado movie, where the F5 is the finger of God. And how easy it would be for primitive people to worship a storm god whenever their clouds sometimes don't have any rain or any clouds at all in them. That whenever they see a giant thunderhead, that they can see God at that point. Storm god can be seen as perpetual. The clouds can be there during the day or at night, and storms can happen during the day or the night, whereas a sun god would be there during the day, and one of the planetary gods would only be there at night. And so, to people and animals that are just begging for a water hole and some rain and some salvation from this, a storm god could easily be seen as something that's only in the distance, that coming by, and people that are primordial living in this situation could easily worship a storm god that brings about life and brings about the nurturing of the land, that keeps them all going. For, you know, they're nearly starving. Whenever ancient man came out of the last ice age, this was a very fertile plain in the desert, but over time, as the ice receded north and south back, it slowly became a desert. Clouds seemed to be receding and leaving and not really benefiting the people much. And a lot of people move north. A game that's being played out for thousands of years, where the floodplains get their nourishment and then it recedes away. But as it dwindles away less and less and less, God seems to leave the land more. People would see that the clouds bring forth life and that they're fickle. They have a mind to their own. They actually make decisions. They move to and fro. They boil and recede. They make swamps. They bring water forth for everyone to be able to utilize and keep men alive. Quite often, this submerged water of life, this baptism we need, this rain that we get, and they looked at the moon and it seemed to be fixed and it did its thing and the sun did its thing, but these clouds were of a mind of their own. They were God. And this God, the bringer of life, was also a protector from, well, he could protect you from the sunlight, he could protect you from many things, but he also is seen quite often going in other directions and not bringing you the most valuable rain that you so desperately need. These people would see the Milky Way and say that God had created a cloud in the heavens, and now he creates clouds over the earth, that now he's watching over us and that we are his people. And so storm godism was born, brand new. And it enveloped all of Mesopotamia. And how God's watching over you as clouds. God is in the Bible in the clouds quite often. In fact, at Moses, it's been proven now that God's voice was thunder, that's the actual word that was used back in the old time. And so this cloud of darkness that came upon the mountains of Sinai, that hopefully was going to bring about rain, that spoke to Moses in thunder, would have been none other than this storm god encased in lightning. And that the bringer of life, especially through this Mesopotamia area, was brought about when storms happened, when rains happened, the anger of things. The anger of God brings about life somehow. It's the yin and yang that brought primordial man through a certain age and time of life into a more modern age where we understand things much better. There's a lot more vision on what clouds are. Once they mingled with the Greeks and the Romans, they had figured out names for these clouds. There's certain clouds that are associated with rain and other ones that aren't, and that was not God, that God had not done these things, but yet the sun had. And this sun was the sun of heaven and earth together, and the sun was the one that dried away the soil and made land, that gave a place even for the plants to grow. And so it was the sun god who took over, and it was the sun who was the savior and the Messiah and the fixer, the one that made everything right, the judge, and by then in turn our creator. Sun gods are seen through Mithra, all through Persia, which pretty much owned all of the land shy of Egypt and what would have been the European and UK areas of Greece at the time, right up until the Bible. An ancient man realized that, this water controlled everything along with the sun, and that water was the bringer of life, the water of life, along with the tree of life that grows. And so the sun grows things, nurtured by the water of life. And this water of life that comes through storms caused by the storm god, again in turn, the following day or after, are nourished by the sun, who is the Son of God. The heaven God's Son, his offspring, was our son, and so was the storm god. And the earth god and earth mother, if you will. And so these worked in conjunction with each other. This was a harmony that was created that gave man its, not purpose, but at least its foundations. That storms would come by the storm god, but his son, the sun, would then nurture things and grow things. This led to the belief that the Son of Man would come, just like it does in life, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, monthly, yearly, in cycles, and primordially. Even through the ice ages, where the sun would go away, but then the sun would return and replenish the earth. The Son of the God, the Son of Man. God is the one that recedes the waters, creating the firmament by heating by the sun. The evaporation that was causes the firmament to happen. The separation of the firmament below and above, and in separating the lower waters from the upper waters, which can be seen as the ice cap separation, pulling up those waters, being separate from the other, the sun drying the ground in between, swamplands going away, and things happening coming out of the last ice age. This was seen in the Sumerians as Enki's job, the one that actually separated the fresh water from the salt water, in doing so bringing about drinkable water, or sweet water as they referred to it. This sweet water embedded in the land, it's our floodplains that we have, it's in our water table that we end up getting wells down to draw up. It is the cause of well springs and natural springs of life, like whenever Moses snaps onto the rock and water comes out of a spring. This spring forth of life allows civilization, this separation of waters, this thing that happened this last ice age and the receding out of it, causing the dogma and beliefs that we have today because of the change that happened and the absence of our remembering, our caring about this knowledge through us, gives us strange religions that come out of that are not strange religions, but strange views of religion that, no. And out of this primordial knowledge that we somehow lost, somehow like it's trapped in ice somewhere, that we don't remember this fact. And it's the the knowledge of the seasons changing, the way things go, that bring about this continuing of sun that was away from us in the last ice age, coming back, that brings about all this life, that brings about some of the thoughts that come about in what people would say would be other religions than the Bible, but yet you can see the remnants of the zodiacal, the seasonal, and aspects of life that are brought about in the Bible in a different light, in a way to try to enlighten the people of Persia, the last ones who didn't already have the full completion of their cycle, the ones that had some doomsday cult, as opposed to the idea that there was going to be a savior of all, and that somehow we're still trapped in that ice of that time. And now, as man finally receives the dawn that it so graciously needs, about 2,000 years later than it was supposed to have actually happened, we can finally wake up to the reality of the fact that the Bible and Christianity also just carried on the same legacy that the Greeks and Romans and all the ancient Gnostics that had been tried to kill out of existence are trying to show us, and that the light and truth of things is really written in the stars, and it's something of God. Then God is in heaven. God is our creator, that the heavens are our destiny, that we all want to be with God. And in all religions, God is in the heavens in some way, shape, or form, that they came from there, they're from there, they're not from here. And therefore that would make them by definition an alien to this world that came and brought forth life in some manner, and that he lives up there in heaven. And our destiny and our hopes in death are to end up re-assimilating ourselves with God in the heavens. And so it's really the same story, and the wheel in the sky keeps turning. Sun comes up and the moon goes down, and the world spins round and round, and mankind continues to reach for heaven in many different ways. Now we're starting to reach in a newer way, a way that we're actually touching God, that we're getting out and edging on it. Still very shy, but it's only because we apparently are waking up late. We're the kid that slept in till 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then woke up rubbing our eyes and try to get it going. Kennedy helped get it going. The Soviets helped get it going. We all took a brand new vantage point. Clearly before that, we were in a dark age from there all the way back to the time. And looking at it, we're just thawing out good and trying to get ourselves going, but looking at our time clock and the way things seem to go, we're not short too much of the next ice age. And so we need to get our crap together pretty quick here and try to figure out what we are going to do and what we should be doing. We shouldn't stave this off and then go into another chill for thousands of years until we reach the next warm time to be able to do something. This next ice age is going to cramp the planet down to a smaller place than it was before, and could cause a lot of conflict if we don't start getting on our ball doing something. We only have a few thousand years at the most before what we think now is global warming is going to turn into a next ice age in the periodic state, and we definitely need to do something about it and address it and be aware of it and come to grips with it so we can prosper correctly. And this would involve setting up for it correctly and looking at the planet like this and saying, we're there. One feasibility is not looked at by man. It's the fact that we're not necessarily trapped here if we can find the way to get ourselves off the planet to other planets. we're discovering other planets. Our destiny is to go to heaven. Our destiny is to be with the gods, to be like one of the gods, and to become Star Trek. And we should endeavor much more strongly than we currently do to do so. I know it feels like an impossible task. Most everything that we've accomplished has been an impossible task, hasn't it? Now, I can't put any special goggles on you and make you see everything, that I'm talking about and stuff. It has to be something that's in your mind. All of this is in your mind, of course, and what you're thinking of, but it's in relation to what's going around. But I just try to put thoughts in your mind. I can put pictures on the screen here in front of you too, but it's allegory and showing and things like that. But I can't put on special glasses where you can see everything, like some pair of special glasses that you could get, and that everything that you thought of might actually be revealed to you in a totally different way, and that everything means something else. You have to find that within yourself, really, in your own mind. For your eyeballs are a window into your mind, and sometimes you take a look around, and after you know this knowledge, everything seems to be different to you, and you can find that you and everybody else seem to be trapped in this machine that's going on of just being ignorant to what the reality of everything is, and misled by things that keep showing you one thing and telling you another. And all of us are sitting here on this blue dot of Earth, slowly spinning through time. But time races, time accelerates, and as we go through time, we accrue knowledge. We realize that things aren't as they seemed in the past, and from this knowledge, we're supposed to gain a new spirituality, nay, a new knowledge. Knowledge can bring about spirituality if we were to find something over and better. Now it's possible that God would be gravity. Gravity itself is in some way an unseen force that holds everything together, that makes the planets move, that keeps everything in check, that makes atoms hold together from the smallest all the way to the way that there's formed on solar systems and galaxies. So now the big G is going to be gravity.